is it you want?" the sweet shop woman was saying. Gregory took a deep gulp and went up to the counter where he slowly unstrapped his watch. He was glad the shop was empty. "May I speak to you?" asked Gregory, and he laid his watch down on the counter. "This is my birthday watch," he said. "It's silver with 15 jewels, waterproof. You can take it swimming and it won't hurt." "Yes, dear," said the sweet shop woman, as if she were wondering why she was being told all this. "Could I leave it with you as a hostage?" asked Gregory. He was not sure he had the right word. A hostage for a pound of those toffees. "But, dear," said the woman, her whole attention caught. "Dear, this watch is worth far more than a pound of toffees." "Yes, that's why I thought you would let me have them," said Gregory. "But, dear," said the sweet shop woman again, "I'm sure your mother wouldn't like it." "Mother's out," said Gregory, and he continued rapidly. "Even if she was in, I couldn't ask her. I can't ask her because she would want to know why Janet and I haven't any money, and then she would have to know everything, and I can't tell her for reasons," said Gregory, tailing off. "We do get money, of course," he went on, "our pocket money on Saturdays. Mine was stopped for 2 weeks, but now it has started again, and I can always use Janet's. That's why I know I can pay you back. But this week I need some more glue and another decent brush, and I had to pay bus fare, so it might be some time." And before Gregory knew it, just as he had told Madame Jeanette, he told the sweet shop woman all about Marta and the good place and the Kitchen Madonna. "Well, knock me flat," said the sweet shop woman when he had finished. "Who would ever have thought you were that kind of a boy? Proper stuck up, I thought you were. Never a word for anybody. Not like your little sister at all. And now? Well, I never." There was a pause in which she seemed to be making up her mind. "But I can't take your watch, dearie. It wouldn't be right." And she handed it back to Gregory. "Please, please, I would make it right," said Gregory, using his coaxing flute voice. But she shook her head. "No, love, it wouldn't be right. But I'll tell you what. I'll take your IOU. "My IOU?" "That's right. Look, I'll write this on a piece of paper. IOU. 4 shillings for 1 pound of toffees. That's what they are by the pound. And you sign and put your address, and then you pay me back as soon as you can. Could you pay me 6 pence every Saturday?" "Yes, I could," said Gregory. "Right. I'll make it out like that. And when you've paid it up, I give the paper back to you." "Oh, thank you, Mrs. Gregory wished he knew her name. "Mrs. Bartholomew's the name," said the sweet shop woman, "but they call me Barty." "Thank you, Barty," said Gregory, and then, as she began to weigh the toffees out, he said anxiously, "Could you make sure that He did not know quite how to put it, and then 2 unusual words came to him, unusual even for Gregory. "Could you make sure that a goodly proportion of those shiny jewelry paper ones go in?" The woman glanced at Gregory, and perhaps those funny old-fashioned words or the earnestness of his face touched her as Madame Jeanette's had been touched. "Though goodness knows I'm used to kids," she would have said, and picking them out especially, she put in 2 whole handfuls of the jewel-wrapped toffees, enough to cover the back of the picture as well. Then, "Do you think," she said, like a child herself, "when this wonder of a picture is finished, you could bring it and show it to me?" There came a day when the last sequin and bead had been dropped into place. "And stuck, thank goodness," said Gregory. The last square of toffee paper filled in the border. Gregory put the picture into the newly painted frame, backed it with the cardboard, and taking care not to shake it in case any beads came off, he gently hammered the pin nails in again with Father's smallest hammer. When he had knocked them flat, he covered the join between cardboard and frame with brown paper sealing strips, as it had been covered before. Then he made a patchwork of toffee papers so that the back looks almost as nice as the front, said Janet. For a finishing touch, in his best script, Gregory wrote a label with the picture's name, Our Lady of the Unfading Flower by Lorenzo Cosimo. But underneath he wrote, A Kitchen Madonna for Marta. "You are invited," said Janet at the drawing-room door, "to a private view in Gregory's loft to see what he has made." "Gregory has made something?" asked Mother, as if she did not believe it, and Father put down his spectacles. "Made something?" "Yes." Janet looked unusually clean and tidy, but now she became Janet again. "Don't be cross with him for being disobedient," she pleaded, "and don't ask him where his ship picture has gone." The loft had been swept and tidied, the carton of scraps pushed into the cupboard, the snippets and bits of silver and paper that had littered the floor gathered up. The paint and glue were on the shelf, the brushes standing in a jar of turpentine. It was Gregory's tidy way, though Janet had grown impatient. "Why?" she had asked. "We want them to look at the picture," said Gregory, "not bother about the loft." The picture lay on the slanted table. Its colors and sequins flashed under the electric light. The Madonna's eyes looked out in their quiet way, while the child seemed to smile. When Mother and Father came in, they stood and gazed until— "Gregory made that?" asked Mother. "All out of his own head," said Janet, "every little bit himself." "You helped a lot," said Gregory. "But it's your picture," said Janet. Listen, Mother." And the story came tumbling out, Janet telling first, Gregory interrupting. They told it from the beginning: Marta's unhappiness, the British Museum, Fabergé and his fine example, the young man in the shop. "Rostov's, whew," said Father, and Gregory winced again as he remembered it. "I'm sorry, Dad," he said, "but you see I had to go." Janet had already gone on to the rain that drove them into the church and was telling about the church shop and the lamp and the picture on the pillar. Our Lady of Czestochowa. Gregory had to spell it out to them. He did not know how to pronounce it. "That must be a copy of the famous picture," said Mother. "It's in Poland." "It said Queen of Poland," said Janet. When they came to the loss of the money, Mother might have said, "That comes of disobeying," but she did not. "Because of Janet," said Gregory, and Janet glowed with pleasure. "Because of Janet, I found a way to make the picture after all." Rudel had come up too and took his station on the table. He was purring while Mother sat down to look at the picture, poring over it. Now that she looked at it closely, she could see it might have been made by a boy. The child's crown was slightly crooked. One of the Madonna's cheeks had run. Two of the edging papers were out of line, but made by a boy with imagination and love, said Mother, reaching for Father's hand. "Oh, Gregory, Gregory!" And she burst into tears. Janet stopped talking at once. The stiffness came back into Gregory. "But I didn't do anything wrong," he said, "except when we went to Rostov's shop and when I went back to the church. It's only a Kitchen Madonna," said Gregory, getting more worried. "All made out of nothing. I didn't spend anything, only Janet's pocket money for glue and paint and the toffees, of course, but I'll pay that back soon." He could not think of anything he had done that was so very wrong, except his disobedience. "But they haven't scolded me for that," thought Gregory. "Why are you so miserable? What have I done?" he asked, almost in a wail. "What have you done?" said Mother through her tears. "Lots of things. You began by sharing Rudel with Marta. You gave up your ship picture. You were ready to give up your watch. And here we all are in your loft where you would never let us in." "I come in and out all the time now," Janet boasted. "Yes," said Mother, "you let us in, Greg, and you have come out," said Mother, which they did not understand. "I'm not crying because I'm miserable," said Mother. "I'm crying because I'm happy." And she put her arm round Gregory and held him close, as if he were Janet, and Gregory allowed her to, said Janet. "Why didn't you light the little light for them to see it all complete?" asked Janet afterwards, but Gregory shook his head. The first one to light that light must be Marta. It was decided to wait until after tea on Saturday when all the family were in. "Then we can all share it," said Mother. She inveigled Marta upstairs by pretending she wanted to go through the linen cupboard, and when they were out of the way, Father, Gregory, and Janet tiptoed into the kitchen. Gregory knew where the good place should be, where Marta had pointed when she had told him of the good place in her home. In the angle of the wall was a small shelf on which the coffee pot always stood. "But it can stand somewhere else," Gregory had said, and Mother had agreed. Now he and Janet washed the white paint on the shelf and put a length of red velvet along it. Mother had found it. And on the velvet laid a mat of crocheted white lace, which she had cut and sewn for them to the shelf's shape. "Marta will like the red showing through the lace," she said. At the right height on the wall, Father hung the picture so that its lower edge was 3 inches above the shelf. Janet filled a miniature silver vase that Mother had given them with snowdrops and stood it to one side. In front of the picture was a little red lamp with its wick ready. Gregory put a box of matches on the table. "Now," Janet called to Mother. "Marta," said Mother, putting down the sheet she was holding. "Marta, I hear you are sad in our kitchen because there is no good place." "Mati Bosa, Mother of God!" Marta's pale face flamed crimson. "The children, they tell you. Ah, they should not have said." They would not have said it if there was no good place now, said Mother, putting her hand on Marta's arm. At least we hope it is a good place. Gregory made it for you. Don't be cross with them. Come and see. She turned Marta toward the stairs. Come and see. Mother had wept when she saw the picture, though I still don't know why, said Janet. But when Marta saw the good place, she stood quite still. Then slowly she lifted her hands, and her whole face was transformed. Mati Bosa, breathed Marta, but in a very different way from the way she had said it upstairs. She took one step nearer. Mater Bosa, she breathed again, and then she began to speak. None of them could understand the words she said, but even Janet knew it was a prayer or a hymn of thanksgiving and praise. It was a loud ringing, so loud that Rudel got up out of his basket and came first to Marta and then to Gregory and rubbed himself against their legs, adding his purring to Marta's praise. The strange words filled the kitchen. Mati Bosa. And though he could not understand one of them, they seemed to go deep into Gregory, thrilling him so that he tingled. When the prayer was finished, Marta broke into laughter, happy, exulting laughter. Now, Marta, never unhappy, never no more. She threw her arms around each of them in turn and kissed them, even Father. It was quite a time before the kitchen was quiet enough for Mother to tell Marta the history of the Madonna. You mustn't thank us, said Mother. And Marta's eyes did have tears in them as the story was told again, and she looked at Gregory much as she had looked at the picture, in wonder and thanksgiving. When Mother had finished, Marta went up to him. For a moment Gregory wondered what she was going to do. He had shrunk a little under those exuberant kisses, but Marta only put out her hand and took his. Then very gravely she shook it. As if I were a grown-up gentleman, said Gregory. It was not until Marta was alone with the children that she lit the lamp. My little lighted lamp, said Marta, and when she did it, there was an unexpected beauty, something extra, like a gift. Under the electric lights of the loft and the kitchen, the picture had scintillated and shone, but in the softer glow of the lamp it changed, and now Gregory saw why those pictures were made with cloth. Their richness of color sprang into life, but the folds and edges were shadowed, making the figures look alive. Here and there a sequin shone like a jewel. The silver sparkled softly. The crowns were rich. The whole picture was bathed in gold, and the eyes looked and looked. Gregory, Janet called from her room when they were in bed. Gregory, you know what? I think your picture's better than the ones in the museum. Don't be an idiot, said Gregory, but he was pleased. It is, and much better than the 438-guinea one in the jewel shop. Don't be a silly idiot, said Gregory, but he was more pleased. Gregory, she called a little later, as if she had been thinking. Gregory, what will you make now? I think I shall make a picture for Madame Jeanette, said Gregory. A hat shop Madonna, and I shall make one for Barty. Do you call Mrs. Bartholomew Barty? Asked Janet. Yes, she's my friend, said Gregory absently. She would like a sweet shop Madonna. We could make it out of the wrappings of all kinds of different sweets. I might make one for Mother, but heck, she mustn't cry. I shall make dozens of Madonnas, said Gregory, lying on his back. Rudel curled up against him. Better and better Madonnas, more and more beautiful. Probably someday some of them will go into the museum. Rostovs might sell them. And Gregory saw Mr. Needham bowing low to him. I might be as famous as Fabergé, said Gregory with a yawn, and he turned over on his side to dream. The end.